Hello, my name is Stan Trout, and I'd like to speak to you today about my Magnetics Bootcamps. In this short video, I would like to explain what they are and what you can expect if you take one. But first, if you'll forgive me, just a little bit of history. I've been going to magnet conferences since 1975 when I was a young graduate student. Later, around 1990, I started going to more commercially oriented conferences. But I found that even so, many of the speakers still used permanent magnet jargon, terms like MGOE, coercive field, or anisotropy to describe their materials. And I found myself looking around the room, wondering if everyone was really understanding what they were hearing, like me, or they were just being polite. After a few years, I approached the organizers of the Intertech conference, my friends Hugh Umstead and Port Wheeler. I described my concept of a seminar to be held the day before the conference, which would define and explain many of the magnetic concepts that people were about to hear at the conference. They didn't see the point. Eventually, I approached the organizers of the magnetics conferences in 2006. They were far more pragmatic in their approach. They suggested putting it on the agenda, seeing if anybody would actually attend. But they were very clear with me that they would cancel the event if too few people registered. A completely understandable business position. The first boot camp was held at the Magnetics 2007 conference. We had about 80 people register for a full day. With that first success, the organizers became very enthusiastic about the seminar. I tried to temper their enthusiasm with a reminder of just how small the market really is. I had imagined that the market it was small and fixed, but that later part wasn't true. What we found is that the boot camps at the magnetics conferences tend to average about 20 people per year, a number I believe which corresponds roughly to the number of people entering the industry in a given year. We find now that a few companies actually use the boot camps as their basic training for new employees. And in fact, one person in one of my seminars, it was his first day on the job. So I claim that I can teach anyone the basics of permanent magnets in just 4 hours. You might ask how I do that. So here's the outline. I start with very simple concepts, things that we learned in elementary school, things that your children would know. From there, we proceed to discuss some basic magnetic quantities, units, hysteresis, ferromagnetism, how magnets are made, and their thermal characteristics. By the end, things that were once confusing are now starting to make sense. And all this in just 4 hours. For those wanting a little bit more information, I have something called the Advanced Magnetics Bootcamp. In this, we jump into a few more topics, raw materials, magnetizing, self-demagnetization, measurements, some case studies where we catch people doing things both very smart and not so smart, and then a little bit about new materials that are on the horizon. I also offer a short course. That's harder to outline. It covers 5 days. It's basically a deeper dive into many of the topics mentioned in the earlier slides. And it's targeted to a more technical audience and is usually best presented over many days, an hour or two at a time is about right. We certainly get further into the details of how magnets are made, material selection, kind of various engineering and design considerations. This class actually has homework. We'll spend a lot of time discussing the solutions. Again, it's the idea of if we work at this over a longer period of time, we'll end up with a little bit higher bit of knowledge that we have. This class is really run like a graduate level engineering course, and most people finish the short course with greatly improved confidence in their understanding of permanent magnets. So what are the takeaways from this? The takeaway from most of my seminars, all my seminars, is that people learn many new things that can be directly applied to their jobs. And that's really the bottom line, that I help people to be more productive. Which one of these 3 approaches is right for you and your organization? Well, that's a good question, and I'm certainly happy to help you find a good answer to it. I'd certainly look for things that benefit your entire organization. and we've done a lot of things over time that I can discuss with you on how you might be able to do that. So I appreciate your kind attention. This is Stan Trout, and I hope to see you at one of our seminars.